Go ahead and kick off the conversation with folks. Hello, everyone. This is Josh Hertel, and I'm glad you all were able to join us, new and old. It's good to have you in on this conversation. And as the comment was made, I think you're going to find there's some good networking that is to be had here with this particular group. So I want to get right down to the conversation, but quickly, just so you know, we'll do a little bit more formal introductions for Kim Harris and Cynthiya Ruban. We have coming up next week, or the week after that, I should say, on Wednesday, November 4th, we continue this series with a day in the life of a data scientist. Alex Guh, who is a data scientist with SAS, is going to be talking about his work. We'll also have Tom Fisher, who is one of the senior advisors to Dr. Goodnight and is involved with strategy. He's going to be actually interviewing Alex. So that'll be on not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after this. We'll have the SDS coffee session. In theory, they may be rescheduling that, but definitely on the 4th, we'll look for you all to join. So as I mentioned, this is really a chance for us to talk a little bit about where our graduates have gone, kind of the directions, how they got there, a little bit of their own background, hopefully a chance to do some networking. We're really excited to have two of the many graduates. Kim Harris. Kim, do you want to talk a little bit quickly about your background, and then I'll flip over to Cynthiya?
Sure. So hey everybody, I'm Kim Harris. I am a graduate of the Health Informatics program 5 years ago, 2015. It's crazy. So I came to the program from being an industrial engineer for about 4 or 5 years. And I'll leave it at that because I think everything else that happened to me post-graduation pertains to what I can talk to you all about.
Okay. And Cynthiya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthiya Ruban, class of 2015 with Kim Harris. So feels great to be here for the discussion. And I'll get into a little bit more about my background as well as some of the other education experiences that I've had over the past 5 years as we dive into the discussion.
Okay. And so we're going to do about 20 minutes of Q&A, maybe a little less than that, with some kind of start off questions. And then we're going to move to an open Q&A session. And at that point, if you would, we'll go ahead and use the chat feature to start with, and then we'll open up the mics and let folks kind of respond. And for the other alumni on the call, we would love to have you chime in with your experiences and your perspectives. This is meant to be an honest discussion of what is phenomenal and what's unique about health informatics and analytics. You know, we talk about big data and the data science program in general. Health informatics is a distinct program, and it is for a reason, because the field has certain unique challenges and certain unique opportunities that present itself. But it is just as diverse as any other field within data science and analytics, and there are a number of different pathways to go forward with. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and we will move to the conversation. So what I want to start off with both of you, and either one of you can go first, Kim or Cynthiya, in terms of the HI program at UNC Charlotte, how do you feel it prepared you for your career, kind of getting your foot in the door, getting the experience? And then, in all honesty, what did you feel was missing that wasn't in the class that maybe you had to seek outside of the class, outside of the formal structure?
So I can start off. First, I want to say you all, everyone who's on the call, I just want to say that we are a laid back group. I don't know if it's changed, but you know, the original cohorts of Health Informatics are a laid back group. Everybody that you're seeing on camera is alumni, so do feel comfortable to turn your cameras on. I'm actually going to turn my background off so that I blend in more, and you know, just this is an open, relaxed environment. But okay, so to the question, first, oh yeah, let me show you guys. So we got these cool, I gotta turn this background off. We got these nice HI shirts that I feel like I just have to show. I'll fix my background later, but it says hi. I just want to show you guys that because for some reason I still have it. But okay, all right, to the questions. So how did health informatics prepare me for the industry? what I want to say is we came in when this was a very new field. And so health informatics was a very foreign phrase to people. And when we came into the field, it was still being structured at a few universities around nursing. So for us at UNC Charlotte, we had to find our footing in the data portion of it and show people why we were worth it and what we were learning. So for me, I felt like the program really helped me explain to recruiters and navigate the job market and what skills I can bring to the table. Because there was a lot of database building and being some sort of database person. Like that was a lot of the job descriptions that we were seeing. Yet we were on the background, we were learning SAS, we were learning Tableau, which this was good at the time. You know, I'm sure it's advanced since then. We were learning how to navigate electronic medical and health record systems. We were learning the coding that went along with that, like I think it was HL7 and probably some other terminology that I'm leaving out. And having all of that helped me get a job. And it took a second because what we were learning did not match the job descriptions at the time. But because we were knowledgeable in what we had taken away from the university, we were able to express ourselves. I definitely was able to express myself and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And so they would bring me all of these jobs because I was working with a recruiter. They would bring me all of these jobs and say, oh, this is for you. I'm like, no, it's not. It is not for me. And so after talking and talking and talking, we ended up finding a role that it was not titled Informatician, but basically it had a lot of the features of what we learned in the program. And so I onboarded onto Optum, which is the technology side of United Health Group, as a data analyst. And I was able to use a lot of the skills and technology that we learned in the health informatics program towards data visualization, a little bit of predictive analytics, things such as that. So that's how it helped me.
And I think just to add on to that, you know, in my perspective, definitely share a similar sentiment as Kim. I think when I think about the program, I think there's three key things that really helped me. And I think Kim spoke to really all of them. First was the robust curriculum and the technical aptitude that I was able to obtain. The second was the faculty and being able to engage with dynamic faculty members that did have connections with industry partnerships. And the third was being able to leverage my experiences through the internship as well. I think that's a critical component to be able to understand how you could use your skills that you have been taught in order to apply it into an industry setting. And I think very similar to Kim, the role I'm in now, I'm a health economist or a health economics outcomes researcher at Exenda Healthcare Consulting Organization. I'm using a lot of the same foundational building blocks I had gained from the health informatics program. But again, it's not titled, very similar to what Kim had mentioned, not health informatist or anything to that element. And I think it's really about using the program to build your toolkit in order to help find a role where you could use those different tools and skills in your toolbox, whether that be soft skills, technical skills, interpersonal skills, in order to help find a job and a role that's the right fit for you.
I'm muted. So kind of following up on this, because Cynthia, you talked a little bit about this, kind of what you do in a day's work with Exenda. Kim, for you, what's a day's work like for you? What are you doing these days? What are the kinds of projects you're working on?
So I tell you, today I now support a natural language processing software engineering team. And I've been in this role maybe 5 months where I'm doing dual roles. And that's one thing that has been a part of my journey. Is I'm not ever doing one thing. I'm always in these multi-faceted roles. So right now I am transitioning into a business analyst within this team, but I'm also like their agile person. So helping make sure that they stay on track and that they're using the right type of I guess to help make sure that they're meeting their project deadlines, but I have to be able to understand some of the things that they're working on, why they're building out different APIs and who they're supporting. To go backwards, I started out in a data analyst role for a fairly new research and development team. And then after doing that for about a year and a half, I transitioned onto a data quality reporting project for the United Kingdom. So I had to go overseas for a little while to work on standardizing our reporting processes for, I think it's NHS, it's the National Health System, I think it is, for the UK. And then I moved on to supporting an internal startup for Optum, which is called, or was called at the time, Data Science University. And that's when we started seeing the introduction of data scientists as job roles in the industry. So we were introducing data scientists to the company and beginning to train people in that. It was like an internal university, internal education system. And at the same time, in the field, you saw data scientist roles with Amazon and similar companies. So I'll say about 3 years out of the program, it started becoming more formal, where the things that we had learned, they were actually becoming job requisitions. And so I stayed with Data Science University for about 3 years. And my day-to-day always differed depending on who I was helping out, because I'm an industrial engineer by trade. So process improvement is what my base education is in, and it follows me wherever I go. So wherever I'm doing data analysis, or if I'm doing process improvement, if I'm mentoring someone, if I'm helping with marketing communications, like it's all a blend. And but it kind of mirrors what we did in the Health Informatics program. It was all a blend. And I'll say too, you will probably become an informal consultant because I feel like that's what I was as I transitioned through each of these projects. I was always in a consultant type of role, trying to bridge the gap between the two teams that I would be working with, many times high-level executives, and just saying, okay, well, I understand this high level at least, so I know what they're talking about on the business side, I know what they're talking about on the IT side, and here's the recommendation for what needs to happen, or at least I can guide you to the people to talk to. So my day-to-day is always different because it depends on what role I'm in, but it's a conglomerate of things and skills, whether it's hard skills or soft skills, that I have to contribute to that role.
It's not unmuting. There we go. So I'm going to put, actually, we've got a question. Oops, sorry, went muted on me again. I've got a question in the chat that I'm going to share with everyone. And some of what you guys have already asked, that how do you find, when they're not called informatics positions, how do you find these how do you create? And Kim, you've addressed that a little bit. And maybe Cynthiya, you want to take a little more of a crack at that.
Yeah, I think, it involves being creative. And I think it comes down to a lot of, Kim and I were actually talking about this earlier this week around building your network. And we were joking about it earlier on this call as well. And I think it's about, like I mentioned before, you guys and everyone in the program, I think, is really building their toolkit of skills. And it's about finding a role, and it's about reading in between the lines. When you look at a job posting, it's looking at the skills that are required and matching it up against what you may have acquired from the program. I think it's also about having discussions, whether that be with, let's say folks that you're networking with, let's say it's for, amongst us here today, or if it's with a recruiter, or if it's, with the organization, or you reach out to someone on LinkedIn just to learn more about their role. I think it's really about understanding and having those conversations in order to get a little bit more granularity about it. I think it takes a little bit more work. It's not going to be cut and dry for you to find exactly what you're looking for word for word, but I think you're going to have to be willing to put in the effort. And I think that's something that, I did. I'm pretty sure that's something that Kim did as well, to be able to find the right role and the right opportunity. It's a little bit of a searching game, but you'll reap the reward of finding the right role and the right fit and being able to align your experiences and interests to a potential organization.
Yep, I agree. I completely agree. It's a lot about the conversations that you have, because the job descriptions, they're not going to say health informatics. I see it in the comments. You don't specifically see health informatics. You're not likely to see health informatics. But look at the job recs. They're going to have certain descriptions. So if there's something that resonates with you, I would encourage you to follow up with whoever the recruiter is for that and ask them questions, because usually the recruiters, they have like a script that they follow. And if once you talk to a couple of them, you'll realize, okay, here goes the script. But then you push back based on your knowledge, because you know what you know. Only person who knows what you know is you. So you have to express that. So when they're talking to you, one thing that I would do, I'd say, okay, well, tell me about the type of projects somebody would be working on in this role. You know, that type of question. The recruiter should know that. If they don't know it, ask them to find it out. And that's how you can find out, you know, is this a good fit for me? Is this what I'm looking for based on the education that I'm receiving and the skills that, you know, I enjoy and that I'm learning?
Just to add on to that, I think also finding folks that are in that role already. So, you know, LinkedIn, there's the power of LinkedIn is, I think, enormous, and it's probably even more so bigger because of COVID and we can't have face-to-face interactions. But if it is a data scientist role, look for someone that is in a data scientist role at that organization. Reach out to them, do a virtual coffee, set up a Zoom call, get to know what their day-to-day is. You know, I'm sure you could hear it from the recruiter, but hearing it almost directly from someone that is in the role, you'll get a better sense to probe, ask, figure out if it's the right fit for you. And I'd highly recommend, don't be shy. I still do this as I think through the next career step for myself. And I think it's such a healthy way, especially in this virtual world. And I do think a lot of folks are open to it. I'm sure you're going to get some closed doors, but I think you're going to get a lot of open ones. And I think it'll be very fruitful.
So we're kind of going down a path, but I think this is a productive path. I don't want to take us off. We can come back to some of the other resources and things we had talked about. But one of the things that Jody just asked, which I think is a really good question. We have the DSBA program. We have the Health Informatics program. And the DSBA has grown very quickly and become kind of, it sucks up a lot of the oxygen in the room. For you all as health informaticians, how do you distinguish yourself? Why are we special? Why is this program special and in some ways a better match for some of these positions than somebody who's gone through the DSBA or another data science program? In your experience, what makes it worthwhile to be a health informatician and analyst now, but we've added that extra A on there.
Thanks for rephrasing it so good. I meant exactly that.
Cynthiya, you want to take first crack at that?
Sure. So I guess for me personally, I really stood on my healthcare background and the healthcare perspective that I could bring to the analysis. A lot of the work that I do day to day is helping to lead. Let me start out. I had joined Extenda about 3 years ago after I finished up my doctoral work. And through my experiences there, I was an analyst, got moved into a manager role and now an assistant director. And so now I provide a lot more strategic oversight. But in my role initially, I provided a lot of support, and my experience, I think, from the healthcare industry really helped shape my recommendations for my clients, really helped added the additional color. And I think that's important to play on, right? Compared to the data science and business analytics program, that healthcare perspective, how you could put your healthcare lens on in order to make sense of the data. What is on top of doing the analytics, it's about taking it a step further and say, what does this really mean? What does this mean for the patient, the provider, the physician, the end perspective? So I think, you really got to play on your healthcare background and the skills you develop from a healthcare standpoint within the program.
Yep, that's the difference. That's the difference. That's what you bring to the table over the other degrees, is what she said.
So I put a request in the chat if the alums are comfortable with it, if they want to out themselves, it'd be nice for the other folks on the call to kind of know who's who. Let me go back then to one of the questions. What do you think? I had the question earlier about what were the skills you felt you might have been missing that you didn't necessarily get in the program. What about now? If you were coming out of the program right now, what do you think are the skill sets, the tools that are critical in this space? Kim, do you want to try first? Because I got picked on Cynthia first last time.
Coming out the program, I don't feel like I was missing anything.
Mhm.
I really don't. Now I really feel like it's still a lot of relevant tools. The only difference that I'm now seeing is that there's been more of a shift towards open source tools. But I mean, if you know one thing, you can adjust easily. So I don't think I came out the program lacking anything. You get a great introduction in the health informatics program, and then you just build on it. Sometimes you're more advanced than the people at your company. So you're like saying, okay, I want to use this tool. And they're like, oh, we have to get it approved, or our company only uses these other tools. So a lot of times you have to adjust anyway. But yeah, I think there's been a shift towards open source type tools. I think becoming familiar with Amazon, I think was it AWS, something like that. I'm seeing more of that now. So just, they say buzzwords, becoming familiar with the technologies or softwares that fall under the buzzwords. So if you have a base in something, you'll be able to adjust easily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Taking a reflection of kind of the skills I learned from the program, I would echo what Kim said. I don't think I was deficient or lacking in anything when I came out of the program. I think I had a very strong soft skills that I built. I built very strong technical skills. I think the internship was very critical for me to be able to then apply those skills and understand how it could potentially move into a career. I had done my internship at Deloitte Consulting, and that gave me a flavor of the consulting environment, and I'm still in consulting now today. So I think really there's nothing I was deficient in. And I think it really does speak to the strong curriculum in my perspective, as well as the faculty members, because I had the necessary support to have ongoing discussions and dialogue with faculty members to really understand how I could propel myself within the year and a half or 2 years I was in the program to not feel I'm deficient in anything. And I think taking a look back, the program really did set me up for success.
So I think part of what I'm hearing is that there's some new areas like cloud computing, having familiarity with the cloud providers and being comfortable to work in that environment. Kim, you mentioned you're doing more work with NLP. What about things like machine learning and those elements? Are those critical skills?
Those are critical skills. When I was working with Data Science University, those were the top things we were educating people in, and those were the top things that people were reaching out to be a part of those courses and learning. It was machine learning, artificial intelligence, things around those. They are very desirable skills and pieces of knowledge to have.
Okay.
I would agree with that. And I think something to echo on too, and what I'm seeing, I think with a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturers, and now I think with COVID, is a lot of interest in leveraging digital technologies. So whether that be in a clinical trial process or through different apps or tools. So there's a new set of data. I think when I was going through the program, I was primarily using claims data, EMR data, kind of very standard traditional sets of data sources. And I think now the diversity in the types of data sets and the power in which they bring is substantial. A lot of the work I do with clients when thinking about a clinical trial process, we may integrate these different sets of data together, and that may impact reimbursement. So being able to analyze and tell a cohesive story, utilizing machine learning, utilizing natural language processing is just so critical. And I just think with COVID, it's accelerating the need and desire for these different technologies and tools, and we're getting more data with it. So definitely agree with the comments Kim had mentioned as well.
Fantastic. Let's shift gears here a little bit. And again, folks, as questions start to come, feel free you can start feeding them in. We've got some other canned questions, but we want this to really drive towards your interest. You can feed them into the chat and we'll follow up from there. In terms of the fields within health informatics, you both are talking about when we usually talk about health informatics, nursing informatics is one of the popular topics, clinical informatics, but there are some other areas, there are some other pathways. You may be working with claims data with payments. Can you guys talk about some of the different paths that you see within health informatics and some of the applications for health informatics and analytics?
I feel like the two biggest ones that I've noticed is either being some form of a data analyst or being a consultant. And like I said, it doesn't look the same at each company. So sometimes you're both. It just depends on who you're working with, what project you're working on, and what you're asked to contribute. But those are the two biggest ones that I see. And they're formatted maybe a little differently depending on which company you go to.
I would agree with that. And I was thinking through this question because I have a hard time piecing together what these career opportunities look like. And I think, Kim, you provided two really good high-level buckets of, avenues. But I think it goes back to my comment earlier, and what I firmly believe is you guys are building your tool belt and your toolkit, and what house you choose to build, what floor plan you choose to use, what location you choose to build it in is all going to be so individualized. My house that I build is going to be very different than the house Kim had built. It's going to be very different than all my other peers on the call here today. So I think it's also important to keep in mind, I think is what I'm trying to get at, is no two paths will ever look the same and no two avenues will ever look the same. And I think it's important to keep in mind what you're interested in, what skills you have, and what opportunities are out there given kind of how the world is changing right now.
Okay. Chris has got a question about how far the certificate program can take you in a professional career. And again, for most of you on the call, you've been through the full master's program, but roughly what that certificate curriculum looks like. For somebody who may currently work in a clinical setting as a nurse, as a technician, what is your sense? And for many of you now in the position of being hiring, you're involved in some of these hiring conversations. How important is a certificate versus a master's towards getting that first job?
I feel like the certificate program is beneficial. The master's program, you get more time to learn more things, but the certificate program is beneficial too. There is actually someone in our alumni, they're not on this call, but they went through the certificate program and it has helped them substantially at their company. I mean, they work for a healthcare company, but when they're having conversations, like they became irreplaceable because the knowledge that they developed through going through the Health Informatics certificate program expanded on what they knew. And so when they were working with like software developers and such, they were saying, well, did you consider A, B, and C? Because you really need to. And it made them unique to people that they were working with, even if it was their superiors. It was like they would call me and tell me about it, And I mean, so I do think that the certificate program is still beneficial. Like I said, it's a shorter amount of time, but it expands what you know, and that changes the conversations that you have because now you're adding critical components to the projects at work.
Agreed. And I think to add on to that, Kim, I think that was very well said. I think it's all about how you package it. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about job opportunities and how do you get your, a next job or your internship. It's all about how you package it. Whether it's the certificate program, a master's program, a doctoral program, it's really all about how you could craft your elevator pitch to really sell the skills that you've built through any of those programs and be able to make impact to your organization, as Kim had mentioned.
I think, Chrissy, you look like you wanted to jump in on a point there.
Yes, my name is Chrissy Bigham, and I was actually a nurse as well when I started this program. I'm still a nurse. I was working as a clinical analyst for Atrium Health and decided that I definitely wanted to merge my clinical side with the IT side. So I went to pursue my master's in health informatics. And I definitely think as a nurse, the certificate program is definitely worth it if you cannot do the whole master's degree, because you still get those basic, skills for that IT/clinical nurse mesh, which everyone wants. Because if you tell anyone on your unit that you have any sort of IT classes, anything, they are like, can you run this report for me? Can you do this for me? So, I mean, with any amount of certificate, master's degree, you are going to be invaluable for wherever you go. I think the big question is where you do want to go. So just, keep those long-term goals in mind. For me, I never wanted to step away completely from the clinical side. So when I went through the program and then afterwards, I focused on how I can still be in the nursing field with having this IT experience as well. So I was a clinical analyst, and then actually was a research nurse, which is kind of jumping out of it a little bit, but I still use a lot of skills. And now I'm a clinical informatics coordinator, which is right along with the nursing side as well as the IT side. So I feel like as you're going through these programs, those tracks, you really need to think about, you know, where you want to be in 10 years. I did not want to be a software developer, anything like that. So those analyst jobs that you see, they're either going to say RN, BSN preferred, or they're going to say IT BS preferred. And that's kind of how you know what that focus of that degree wants. They want that really IT software developer, or do they want that healthcare all around background with the IT components that they can grow on? So that's kind of how I look at positions, because they will say the exact same thing at the top, and then you have to dig down to be like, oh, I like that, or I have that, I do not have this, you know, that sort of stuff. So that's just my spiel.
All right. This is actually an interesting question, because we had this question early on in the program when several of you were starting it, whether or not we should pursue accreditation with KHIM or HEMA, some of the specific badges that are offered. Anything that you all are hearing that are kind of popular credentials that are kind of add-ons, bolt-ons to a traditional master's or certificate program?
I feel like you get your credentials after you get your job, because you'll learn what's of value to your company and your industry. So I think Cynthiya has, I know I have gone through like some executive education courses since being out of the Health Informatics program. So I know in the program, I didn't focus on getting additional certifications because it didn't feel necessary. It might be different from a nursing perspective, because I think the requirements may change, but I wouldn't stress about it, because once you get into your role, you'll learn of some other things that may be of value to you.
Cynthiya, anything on that, or anything to
No,
add?
nothing else to add. Definitely echo Kim's sentiment. I think once you get into a role, get into an industry, you'll soon realize what you like, what you don't like, and what additional skills that you need to develop, or what you're deficient on, to be able to supplement your education.
So if you're interviewing somebody, and this will go to actually any of the alumni who are on the call, I'm going to open this up a little bit. If you're interviewing somebody for a potential health informatics position, what are I'm riffing off of Shrudi's question. What are the 3 skills that you're looking for, 3 or 4 skills that you want to see in that conversation and in that resume that should be highlighted for somebody coming into a position in health informatics and analytics?
I could take a first pass at it, but I'd love my colleagues to chime in as well, because I know we're all part of different industries and fields. For me, I look at 3 very transferable skills. First, I'll look at your communication ability. Second, your problem solving ability. And the second is your technical aptitude. Very broad, I understand that, but I want you to be transferable, whether you're working for my organization, Kim's, Tyler's, Chrissy's, across the board. I think it's so important to build those foundational skills that you could then transfer to any organization or any opportunity that may come available.
Yeah, she hit it on the head. I definitely agree with that. I'm looking at how personable you are, because you have to be able to have conversations with people, and it's not always only about knowledge. Like, yeah, you have to have the knowledge, but you also have to be able to communicate with people and show a sensitivity and be personable, because if people don't like talking to you, you're not going to get a lot accomplished. So I'm looking at that too if I was hiring.
Yeah, and I'd only add in, I mean, while I'm out of the healthcare informatics space now, when I was still in the industry, primarily looking for, you know, technical skills that are fitting into the types of problems that I'm trying to solve. So that would be different, you know, I guess, based on the role that you're applying for or looking for. Team fit, always important, you know, personability, as well as, you know, a good subject matter base, right? Around, especially if you're talking healthcare. While it's a broad field, having some kind of at least cursory knowledge of that section of healthcare that you're looking to apply to is also very beneficial.
Tyler, before you,
Chrissy, I have one more thing to add. I would also add adaptability, because I mean, just in the 5 years we've been out, it doesn't feel that long, but I feel like even maybe some of the topics that we covered in our classes are probably a little ancient as of now. So just being able to adapt to whatever that new shiny, interfaces or whatever. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know how to learn everything you need to.
and Tyler, just before coming back to you for a second, because you had an interesting path as well. You started with a local company, then you went to a national, well, Premier is not a local company, I know, but it started locally.
Yeah.
And then you went to more of a consulting role. So
Right.
there's some similarities with some of the other points, but talk a little bit about that path.
I started out working in an informatics company already. They're based there in Charlotte, Premier Healthcare Alliance, doing basically data analytics on quality data is primarily my wheelhouse there. From there, I decided to further my education by, picking up, a master's degree in the program. And then circumstances worked out well to where, as I was graduating, an opportunity came along to work for Accenture, which is one of the large consulting companies across the world. So went into digital transformation in Accenture, working with large hospital systems there to integrate data from different EMRs, payroll systems, things like that, to help, again, on the quality side of things, do reporting out for the front lines, to help understand where, basically tracking on outcomes for management there. So I worked, with a large healthcare system up in Detroit for about 3 years, and then, left. So other circumstances changed, and I left the industry again. So it's kind of been a roller coaster.
And Chrissy, for the reports, when you were doing your work with Atrium, right? Am I remembering it correctly? The analyst role, how are they using the information that you were, the type of work that you were doing for them, the reports you were generating, the insights?
The reporting that I was helping with was for like quality metrics and process improvements, stuff like that for the units, the actual unit-based nursing stuff.
Fantastic. Okay. So we'll let folks open up their mics now for questions, and also for the alums, if you have questions of the current students. I think turnabout is fair play. So if you want to put any of them on the spot, feel free.
I have a question for the current students in the program. With COVID and kind of things turning virtual, what is the biggest challenge are you guys facing? Is it from an education standpoint? Is it from a job perspective? I'd love to understand a little bit more about the challenges you guys are facing right now.
Hi, Cynthia. I would like to speak on that. I'm a current student on the certificate path, but I plan to switch to a master's. I want to say one of my challenges is I'm in the online class right now, but as time progressed, I want to switch over. But one of the challenges I feel I have is just having that in-class experience and learning that way. I'm starting to find, I guess we're in like our 6-7 weeks now, but I'm having a hard time kind of understanding what to do, because we don't have that kind of presentation. It's more of, this is what you have a list of things to do and you're having to figure it out on your own. And so the class that I'm having a challenge with is Python at the very moment. And it kind of went from easy to kind of hard. So I want to say that's like a challenge for me, just having that in class or personal experience, or just working with other students in like a study session. I wish that I had that.
Group me.
Yeah, I think
Group
what
me is just a lifesaver right now because I'm in school right now too.
yeah, I think what Terika is trying to say is like some of the initial core courses of this program are like self-paced online programs. So like regardless of being COVID or non-COVID, so some of the courses are paced courses, online ones, and the one which were like in person and face-to-face classes are now have become online. So although it is synchronous, but she's right about, like meeting the professor and having that interaction amongst the students uh, to find solution. I think it's basically the interaction amongst the class, amongst the peer. So that we are missing right now.
Right.
I think that's a great question and an issue that I think a lot of us are facing in your day-to-day jobs. I am facing that in a different sort of light, but having that interaction and collaboration is so essential for me to deliver products to my clients. And so I think one strategy, and I'd love for my alumni peers to chime in as well, what strategy you guys are using in your day-to-day jobs is really leveraging virtual meetings more to learn from each other. And whether it's a working session, there's so many times where I've sat there on a whiteboard and whiteboarded out things with my colleagues to just talk through ideas. And I think, we all got to make the best of our circumstances. But I think really, whether it's networking, whether it's learning Python or trying to figure out a solution for a client, leverage technology and don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call people. I think I grew up in the age where I was texting all my friends, and now we've moved to virtual. Now from a work standpoint as well, I was texting my work colleagues, and now we jump on a call and we talk. And I think that's one way to increase communication and make sure that you're delivering on those key deliverables, but also having that personal engagement that I think you're speaking to.
Yeah, I want to say something that I think, excuse me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. I think Shruti. I think she was trying to jump in here too, but I agree with Cynthia. I said group me because my cohort is using group me heavily, and it's not always serious, it's joking, but joking is part of personable experience too. I'm a telecommuter. I've been a telecommuter for the past 2 to 3 years. So while I started out in person, I transitioned into telecommuting before COVID. So I didn't feel the impact as strongly as others work-wise. Personal life, yes. Work-wise, no. But what I do to help people stay engaged is make sure that we're using interactive documents. So when we're having conversations, I'm like, okay, type in your thoughts as you explain this. And that helps because people can convey their thoughts much easier than you repeating what they said. And I found that to be very useful.
Yes, and we had like one more issue with as students are typing, I realized that like because of this COVID situation, students who were in second year of program, they had difficulty finding internships. So we struggled there a lot. So I think I can hear other students worried about it.
Yeah, so I do want to give Shruti a chance to jump in because she has been trying.
No, I was just saying the same thing like what Jyoti was saying.
Sorry.
No worries. I think we all are facing difficulties finding opportunities, let it be internship or full-time opportunities, but I believe all of us are facing equal difficulties in that. So do you, as alumni, have any recommendation or suggestion, like how can we make that process a little easier?
Yeah, that's I think a great question. I think a lot of folks who are, trying to find jobs in this job market, whether it's an internship or full-time opportunities, I think it's challenging. A couple strategies I'd recommend is reaching out to the Career Center, seeing what type of, that's actually how I landed my full-time job, was through the Career Center. I had done a mock interview and I ended up finding a good fit with Amersource Bergen, who owns Exenda. I would also say leverage your advisory board. You guys all have a Health Informatics and Data Analytics advisory board. You guys have, I'm not sure, Josh, if the meetings have turned into the virtual advisory boards, but that is, we'll let you chime in there.
Well, COVID has made this a little more difficult in terms of the meeting. But yes, we are finding ways to connect. I threw something in also. Deloitte has got a session tomorrow. They're going to be doing, Deloitte has been a little bit of a, pardon my former Deloitte employees, been a pain in the ass lately in terms of how they're approaching their internships. They've come to a much more structured, but they are going to be talking for anyone with less than 2 years experience. You can apply for the summer internship. for the summer internship program. So.
And then I feel like Tyler's trying to jump in
Yeah.
and add some tidbits.
I would just say for the folks that are kind of more towards the end of the program looking for full-time positions, reach out to some of the recruiters that are out there in the different, like if you're looking for more of a technical based role, there's recruiting firms that are, national that focus on technical roles. Tech Systems is one that pops to mind. But, that's kind of how I've, found my current role. Was through, reaching out, giving them my skill set. I was primarily focused on finding another healthcare role, but, the perfect job came around. So that kind of changed my opinion. But yeah, they know where all the roles are and can help dig through those for you.
Would you be able to suggest any recruiting or consulting companies we can approach to for finding full-time opportunities in this challenging situation? Like recruiting consultants, I don't know, maybe in Charlotte or out of your experience, which
Yeah.
helped y'all in your process?
So first, let me tell you all, if you are not using LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn. That works well for us coming out of academia. Like, I think I only created a LinkedIn for the Health Informatics program, and I probably use that just as much or more than any social media. And I want to share with you all. So me coming out of the program, I'll share two experiences, me coming out of the program and me over the COVID months, because I had two experiences where this has been beneficial. So coming out of the program in 2015, I was doing a lot of networking with our advisory board as well as our instructors, which they are very open to having conversations. So if you are not having a coffee, like literally a coffee with them, have a coffee with your instructors. Coming out the program, I was set up by a classmate with a recruiting company that they used to work with. And so Randstand Technologies is the company that I worked with. And I think I'm one of the few people who came out of the Health Informatics program that started their role as a contractor, because that's typically what they deal in, is finding people 6, 9, and 12-month positions. And I think what I was talking about earlier was, you got to know what you enjoy doing. That helped me navigate the field with that recruiter to look through the different data roles, IT roles, and it helped me land the closest thing I think was a health informatician role, even though it didn't have that title. So that's one thing. The second thing, and I say have a LinkedIn because recruiters are always reaching out to me on LinkedIn. It's just like, how do you even know to contact me? So that's why I say it's important to have your LinkedIn, connect with people from the Health Informatics program that might put you on their radar. And then a second thing, so COVID. I became unemployed during COVID. I think it was late May or early June. My company did layoffs, and I was one of the people to be laid off. Networking works. So I did a hire me campaign on LinkedIn and really just posting what I felt was great about myself, because who's going to advocate for you more than you? Nobody. And in a 13-day span, I ended up with 5 informal interviews because these roles were not posted. They did not have official recs for them. I ended up with 5 informal interviews, and that does not include people who I said, I don't think that's the right fit for me. Just through using LinkedIn and letting people know, hey, I'm open. And I'm actually seeing a lot more of that because of the COVID period. People are saying, hire me. They're being very frank about, what's going on with them. They're like, my company just let me go. I need help, so I think the same applies. I'm looking for an internship, and it's a little bit more challenging through COVID. Can someone help me? Like, be frank, and sell yourself. So that's my advice there.
I would also throw out that some of the companies that you all know well have health informatics departments hidden in them because they're in their benefits. So Lowe's has a health informatics unit. Delahayes Foods, which is Food Line based up in just up the road in Salisbury, has a health informatics unit because they're looking for folks to do that kind of analysis within the healthcare benefits that they're going to be offering. And that's another more creative way. I've thrown a couple of links to some of the consultants we've worked with who've done some recruiting with us in past. Last year, we'll probably schedule them for sometime in the spring for another event like this. I want to ask one last question if I can, because we're coming up on time. And that is, what are the campus resources? We talked about this a little bit before, Kim and Cynthia, that you think are particularly useful that students should be availing themselves of and taking advantage of in their time at UNC Charlotte, even if it's virtual.
The Center for Graduate Life. They helped me out so much. Them and the Career Center. But I use the Center for Graduate Life more because the people who work there and who host workshops, they've all, or most of them have come from industry. So they're telling you what has worked, and they're walking you through exercises of what has been effective in the industry.
I would agree. I think leveraging those two resources specifically to have your resume reviewed, as well as doing a mock interview, are going to be critical. So you're not coming into an interview situation almost dry or not warm. You could test out and get some feedback around your skills, and making sure you have a very well polished resume. And I'm not sure if they've moved or transitioned to provide assistance around LinkedIn as well, because that is more of your digital resume. I think these days, just touching on a little bit of what Kim had mentioned, but leverage those resources. They're free. I leverage them through my time at UNC Charlotte as well. And I think that was a critical element to my success.
So I threw the link in for Grad Life, and most of you have been to the Career Center and to the postings on Hire a Niner. I'll close out with a thank you here in a moment, but I'll also say one other resource, and that is the people that you see on this call and the people you see in your classes and the alumni. One of the things that has been heartening for me since the day I started with this program, and I actually started with this program, I'm getting old, very, very old. The team sense of the students in the program and the willingness to help each other out, to look for ideas, to critique each other. So as you are on LinkedIn, as is being suggested, looking for alumni of the Health Informatics program, don't hesitate to reach out and connect with them on LinkedIn and say, if they're at a company that you're particularly interested in, can I have that coffee or just a virtual conversation? I don't think you'll find anyone in this program, any graduates of the program, who will turn you down or even ghost you in any way, shape, or form. So to take advantage of that. And with that, I'll say to my colleagues on the call, to the students on the call, it is a pleasure always to see you and to work with you. And I appreciate, in ways I cannot say, the time that you give back to the program. And hopefully, for those of you who haven't seen in a while, Chrissy, when you're coming through, at some point we get post-COVID, a cup of coffee would be great. Tyler, if you're flying over at some point, love to see you as well. And at some point, you have to find out who on this call is practicing their roller skating, but I'll leave it there. All right. Any last minute questions?
I'm just really upset Dr. Saunders was not on this call. So
have you
seen? He got married.
I know.
He's probably on his honeymoon on like honeymoon.
Okay. Well, he's got a bye this time, but next time.
When I tell him you all were on the call, he's going to be jealous. So
I know. Tell him he missed out. He missed out.
But Josh, I just want to echo what you mentioned. I think, all of us on the call here today would be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and, discuss further. It's a pleasure to speak with everyone today and share perspectives. And as always, nice to see my fellow alumni. It feels like yesterday I was in class with you guys.
Everyone stay safe. Hopefully we'll see each other in person in the not too distant future. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.